Welcome to World Mysteries, where we explore enigmas that transcend time and space. Today, you're about to embark on an incredible journey where long-finished battles may still be unfolding. Ghosts, illusions, or messages from another dimension, the answers lie just ahead. A cold winter's night, 1642. The weary shepherds huddled against the biting wind on England's Edgehill had thought the war was over. The cannons had long fallen silent after the day of battle. Yet here they stood, hearts pounding, watching spectral soldiers clash in the skies above. In the moonlight, ghostly figures of cavalry and infantry charged and fell, their swords ringing and horses screaming in agony. The cries of the dying echoed over the dark fields once more, as if the Battle of Edgehill was being fought all over again in the heavens. Fear gripped the shepherds. They prayed it was a trick of the night, but the phantom war raged on, vivid and horrifying. The past had bled into the sky before their very eyes. This was only the beginning. In the days that followed, villagers from nearby Kinneton also witnessed the unearthly battle and even recognized some apparitions. A pamphlet titled A Great Wonder in Heaven spread the story of this ghostly reenactment. King Charles I himself, upon hearing the accounts, dispatched investigators. According to records, the Royal Commission saw the phantom combatants as well, identifying among them the king's fallen standard-bearer, Sir Edmund Verney, still clutching his severed hand that had been chopped off in battle. For weeks, the ethereal armies fought nightly until the locals, desperate to calm the restless dead, gave proper Christian burials to the bodies left on the battlefield. Only then did the hauntings subside, or so the story goes. But the legend of Edgehill's ghostly battle had already etched itself into history, becoming Britain's first officially recorded supernatural encounter, a phantom army acknowledged even in the Public Record Office. Yet, Edgehill's tale is far from unique. Throughout history and across the world, people have reported mysterious battles that defy all logic. Sometimes they appear as echoes of bygone wars, replaying long after the conflict ended. Other times, they manifest as battles in the sky with no earthly armies in sight, leaving witnesses trembling and awestruck. These eerie events blur the line between reality and the supernatural, as if time itself has torn open and bled the past into the present. Omens in the sky across the ages. Dawn, April 1561. Residents of Nuremberg, Germany, awoke to a frightful spectacle in the heavens. The rising sun was blotted out by strange shapes engaging in what looked like an aerial battle out of the sun. Hundreds of glowing orbs, blood-red crescents, crosses, and cylinders swarmed the sky, darting and looping in combat. Witnesses described cannonball-like spheres and rods racing back and forth, clashing for over an hour. Eventually, a massive black triangular object appeared among them, and some of the combatants seemed to fall to earth in trails of smoke, as if shot down from the sky. The townspeople were baffled and terrified. A local broadsheet by Hans Glasser depicted the event in a dramatic woodcut, showing the skies filled with shapes and the sun colored blood red. To those who saw it, it was as real as any battle, yet no armies were there, only the quiet streets below. What had they witnessed? An omen from God? Armies of angels and demons clashing in the sky? The broadsheet cautiously called it a dreadful apparition, leaving the question open. Over the centuries, some have reinterpreted the Nuremberg spectacle as perhaps an early UFO encounter, while others suspect a rare natural phenomenon was at play. But for the men and women that morning, it felt like the heavens themselves were at war. Just a few years later, in 1566, a similar celestial drama unfolded in Basel, Switzerland. Over several days, citizens reported bizarre events in the skies. The sun rising as a dim red orb that wept tears of blood, and great black globes that flew in front of it. These dark spheres raced and fought each other at dawn, dozens of them whirling through the air as if in combat. The people of Basel were astonished. To them, it must have seemed like a warning or divine sign. A local leaflet described it as a religious portent, for what else could such miracles in the sky mean in those times? Today, scholars note that 16th century Europe saw many pamphlets about miracles and sky spectacles. Perhaps the Basel phenomenon, like Nuremberg's, could be attributed to unusual atmospheric optics or solar activity. But in the summer of 1566, Under those blood-red dawns, the folk of Basel believed heaven had revealed something profound and terrifying, a sky battle of unknown forces, fighting above them in silence. An afternoon in 1665. On the Baltic Sea coast near Stralsund, a group of fishermen encountered an even stranger vision. As they cast their nets under a gray April sky, flocks of birds suddenly coalesced into the shapes of ships overhead. The men rubbed their eyes in disbelief as massive phantom galleons appeared in the clouds, sails billowing. These ghostly ships engaged in a furious battle right above the water, cannons flashing without sound, and decks crawling with apparitions of soldiers locked in combat. Stunned, the fishermen watched until dusk, when a flat, round shape like a plate, perhaps a great flying disc, hovered above the city and sent them scrambling for shore in terror. By the next day, these hardened seafarers were shaking and bedridden, struck with unexplainable pains after witnessing the ominous spectacle. To the people of Stralsund, this eerie battle in the sky was interpreted as a divine omen, a warning of war or disaster to come. In fact, many did see it as the wrath of God, or a sign of imminent trouble, and pamphleteers of the time wasted no time printing sensational accounts of the prodigy in the heavens. Unbeknownst to those 17th-century witnesses, one plausible explanation is that they may have seen a mirage, an atmospheric reflection of a real battle just beyond the horizon. If true, it means there was an actual naval engagement that day, its image somehow projected into the sky over Stralsund by freak weather conditions. But in 1665, no such scientific reasoning existed. Instead, the tale became one of the most famous sky battle legends of Europe. A ghostly armada fighting among the clouds, leaving sailors frightened and townsfolk whispering of God's portents and unknown forces that rule the skies. Echoes and phantoms on the battlefield. Not all mysterious battle apparitions have been confined to the sky. Many have been reported on the very blood-soaked fields where the original conflicts were fought, as if the land itself refuses to forget. Edgehill was but one example, and indeed, in the years after 1642, locals claimed the phantom armies would still be heard on dark nights, the thunder of hooves and crack of muskets ringing out around the battle's anniversary. The English Civil War yielded yet another spectral confrontation at Noseby in 1645. For at least a century after that decisive battle, villagers spoke of an annual ghostly reenactment in the sky, complete with the screams of men and cannon fire, playing out above the quiet fields on each June 14th anniversary. People would gather to watch these eerie anniversaries, half in dread, half in awe, bearing witness to an event that seemed burned into the fabric of the world. The phenomenon isn't limited to England. In Scotland, one modern encounter suggested that even a war over 1,000 years past might still flicker to life for a moment. One evening in the late 20th century, a woman driving through the countryside near Dunnichen, the site of the Battle of Nectansmere, 685 AD, was startled by a vision from another time. After an accident forced her to walk down a lonely lane, she noticed her dog growling at something ahead. There, emerging from the gloom, she saw men with torches moving across the moor, stepping among what looked like fallen bodies. The mysterious figures wore archaic clothes, tunics, plaids, armor pieces, nothing a modern person would wear. They seemed to be searching the slain for their comrades. The woman later described what she saw in detail, and a historian confirmed the clothing resembled that of 7th century Pictish warriors, the very combatants of Nectansmere. If her account is to be believed, she had witnessed a fragment of that ancient battle replaying over 1,300 years later, a time slip of history, briefly visible on a quiet Scottish night. History offers more curious incidents. St. Augustine, writing in the early 5th century, tells of a phantom Roman battle on a plain in Campania, Italy, a battle seen and heard by witnesses, complete with the clash of weapons and cries of fighters. When dawn broke, they found physical proof something had happened, hoofprints and footprints trampling the field. And yet, perplexingly, no such battle had occurred. At least, not yet. In a twist, shortly after this ghostly display, a real battle did take place on that very ground, exactly as if the vision had foretold it. To the chroniclers, it was a warning sent by the divine. To us, It sounds like a scene from a time-bending mystery where the future war echoed into the past. Sometimes these phantom forces have even been said to intervene in mortal affairs. Consider the legend of Otranto, 1537. The Ottoman Turks were at the city's gates, poised to capture it as they had decades before. Suddenly, the story goes, the beleaguered Italians on the ramparts beheld an astonishing sight, an army of ghostly warriors on the walls, accompanied by countless angelic figures appearing out of nowhere to defend the city. The invaders, terrified, fell into disarray. The locals swore these were the spirits of 800 martyrs, the very townsfolk slaughtered in the Ottoman invasion of 1480, come back from heaven to protect their home. The chronicles claim this miraculous spectral army drove off the Turks and saved Otranto. Astonishingly, a similar miraculous defense was reported again in 1644, when Ottoman forces were foiled by the same otherworldly intervention of the martyr army. These tales border on the divine. Here the past doesn't just replay, it rises up to fight alongside the living. Whether one views it as pious myth or paranormal phenomenon, the people of Otranto firmly believed heaven's own ghost battalion stood guard over their city in its darkest hours. Even into the modern era, the age of reason, photography, and science, ghostly battles have persisted. The battlefields of the American Civil War and beyond abound with stories of lingering spirits. On certain nights at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, site of the Civil War's deadliest battle, visitors and park rangers alike have reported hearing the distant rumble of cannon and the crack of muskets, or seeing shadowy figures in Union and Confederate uniforms moving through the fog. Some accounts speak of echoing gunfire, desperate shouts and screams, even the faint notes of a trumpet or fife. People have claimed to witness scenes straight out of 1863, phantom soldiers dragging wounded comrades or artillery crews loading ghostly cannons. There are even reports of entire ghostly encampments and field hospitals appearing and vanishing on the fields of Gettysburg. It is as if the hell of that 3-day battle left an indelible imprint on the land, one that continues to replay for those sensitive or lucky enough to catch a glimpse. Travel west, and the story continues. On the plains of Montana, where General Custer and the 7th Cavalry met their fate at Little Bighorn in 1876, many have felt an oppressive atmosphere as though walking among invisible presences. Visitors often describe an overwhelming and intense feeling of sorrow, hopelessness, and sadness that grips them out of nowhere, as if the anguish of that defeat still radiates from the soil. There have been sightings of ghostly soldiers on horseback and mysterious glowing orbs, ghost lights, moving in formation across the hills at night. Rangers tell of hearing faint battle cries on the wind and seeing spectral figures at Last Stand Hill, where Custer made his final stand. These hauntings aren't confined to the outdoors. Even the park's visitor center and museum reportedly have the occasional visit from a restless cavalryman still on patrol. Here, the past doesn't just bleed into the sky, it seeps out of the ground beneath one's feet. And stories go on. 2 brothers camping in the Culin Mountains of Skye in 1956 awoke to the blood-curdling sound of Gaelic war cries echoing in the night. They rushed out of their tent to find nothing visible, yet all around them the noise of an invisible battle raged, the unmistakable din of kilted Highlanders charging. The next night, it happened again at 4 a.m. But this time, the phantom shouts were of men in panicked retreat, screaming as they fled. Historians later noted that these hills had once seen clan warfare. Could it be that those ancient fights were somehow replaying in the dark? Imagine the brothers' terror, hearing unseen warriors storm past their lonely campsite. No explanation ever emerged, and the Skye incident remains an unsettling anecdote locals recall in hushed tones. Even the world wars of the 20th century did not end humanity's tales of ghostly intervention. In World War I, amid the misery of the trenches, a legend took hold that gave hope to many a frightened soldier. In August 1914, during the desperate fighting retreat at Mons in Belgium, British troops were on the verge of being overrun by the advancing German army. That's when, according to numerous accounts that spread later, a radiant force suddenly descended between the two armies. Some described mysterious bowmen or angelic warriors who appeared in a glowing cloud from the sky, halting the Germans in their tracks. Men talked of German cavalry horses rearing in fear at an unseen phantom host, and of ghostly arrows raining down from above. This story, known as the Angels of Mons, became a powerful myth, an army of angels or ghostly archers, supposedly the spirits of English longbowmen from the medieval Battle of Agincourt, had come to protect the British. Though the tale was popularized by a fictional short story soon after, and later debunked as myth, many soldiers swore it was true, claiming they personally witnessed the divine intervention. Fact or not, the mere belief in those sky-born angels brought comfort to the war-weary, a sense that even amid mechanized slaughter, the forgotten dead might yet rally to shield the living. Unraveling the mystery, theories and reflections. What lies behind these sky battles and ghostly armies? How can entire battles, with all their sound and fury, appear where they shouldn't or reappear long after their time? Over the years, scholars, scientists, and mystics alike have pondered this question, offering explanations that range from the rational to the fantastical. On the scientific front, one straightforward answer is misidentification or natural phenomena. The 1561 Nuremberg spectacle, for instance, might have been nothing more than an unusual atmospheric event. Some researchers suggest it could have been a massive display of sundogs or halo effects, where ice crystals in the atmosphere refract sunlight into eerie shapes and multiple orbs. A sunrise seen through a hazy, fractured sky could well appear blood-red, with floating objects around it. The people of Nuremberg, living in a world of religious symbolism and war fears, might have interpreted these lights as a battle in the heavens. Mass hallucination is another oft-cited possibility. Under conditions of collective stress or excitement, crowds can convince themselves they see wonders. In Basil's case, highly unusual sunrises, perhaps caused by volcanic dust or an eclipse, could have primed observers to see fighting red spheres, where a meteorologist might simply see refracted light. The air battle of Stralsund in 1665 offers a very intriguing scientific explanation. As mentioned, historians think those fishermen likely witnessed a Fata Morgana, a complex mirage, of a real naval battle taking place beyond the curve of the Earth. Such mirages can occur when layers of warm and cold air bend light, essentially creating a distant sky mirror. It's rare, but there are documented cases of cities over the horizon appearing in the sky like ghost visions. If a sea battle was indeed happening miles away, perhaps ships exchanging fire out of the fishermen's direct line of sight, it's conceivable that the atmosphere projected a distorted image of it into the sky, complete with moving shapes. No wonder the details they described, ships and smoke, sound so realistic. They may truly have seen a battle, just not above them, but beyond the horizon. Of course, the fishermen had no knowledge of optics, so to them it was 100% a supernatural occurrence. Another rational angle is the power of suggestion and legend. Humans are storytellers. Once a tale of a ghostly battle is seeded, later witnesses might unconsciously embellish their own perceptions to fit the legend. For example, after the first few Edgehill sightings were reported and the pamphlet circulated, anyone walking that battlefield at night might interpret a distant owl's cry or flicker of moonlight as the beginning of the phantom battle. Over time, the story snowballed, but importantly, it started with multiple independent witnesses who genuinely saw something inexplicable. That kernel of truth is hard to ignore. Then there's the psychological resonance of place. Battlefields are sites of extreme trauma, and visitors often go in feeling a sense of gravity. Modern psychology might say that some sightings are projections of our own emotions or expectations. If you stand on a field where thousands died violently, it's not hard to feel like their presence lingers. A rustle in the bushes might set the imagination ablaze with images of soldiers. In other words, some ghost battles could be manifestations of human grief and memory, rather than literal supernatural events. Yet not all can be so easily dismissed. In many of these cases, the details are rich and eerily consistent, and the events were seen by dozens of reliable people, including, in Edgehill's case, a royal commission of sober gentlemen who had every reason to deny it, yet did not. The sheer number of accounts of phantom battles, from ancient times to the present, in different cultures across the world, suggests something more than just fairy tales. Could all these witnesses across centuries be hallucinating? Believers say no. They argue that while science can explain lights in the sky, it struggles to explain full sensory replays of historical battles with visual, auditory, and even physical components. This is where paranormal theories step in, adding an emotional and metaphysical depth to the discussion. One prevalent idea is often called the stone tape theory, residual hauntings. The notion that intense human events can literally imprint themselves on the environment, like a recording on tape, which then replays at a later time. The unimaginable fear, pain, and emotional energy unleashed in battle might charge the very ground, water, or air with a kind of psychic record. Later, under certain conditions, those records play back, and people witness an echo of the past. This theory aligns with the Edgehill and Gettysburg hauntings. The events repeat, but in a loop, almost impersonal. The ghost soldiers rarely interact with the living. They're locked in their moment. As one writer put it, the agony of battle is so overwhelming that it's forever burned in the aura of the location, doomed to repeat. It's a haunting thought, quite literally, that tragedy could scar the world itself, leaving ghostly scars we can sometimes see. Others put forth the idea of time slips or time warps. Maybe these battles aren't ghosts at all, but actual moments of time briefly overlapping. In these moments, the past and present intersect, allowing living observers to see a battle as it happens in another era. It's a mind-bending concept, but it would explain the St. Augustine story of a future battle seen ahead of time. Or why some phantom battles, like the Scottish woman's encounter with Pictish warriors, seem remarkably detailed. Perhaps occasionally the veil of time grows thin, and we witness a snippet of another century. Science doesn't entirely rule out odd quirks of space-time, though mainstream science certainly doesn't endorse the idea that you might literally watch 685 AD play out in front of you. Still, when faced with multiple witnesses swearing to such sights, one's imagination drifts to possibilities outside the ordinary. And of course, the classic explanation: spirits of the dead. War leaves behind not just broken bodies, but restless souls, or so many believe. By this view, the ghostly armies are exactly that, the ghosts of soldiers who cannot let go. Perhaps they died so suddenly or tragically that they don't realize the battle is over. They refight it again and again, trying to change an outcome or fulfill a duty left unfulfilled. In folklore from many lands, the idea of an army doomed to wander is common. The wild hunt in European legend, spectral warriors riding across the sky, is one such motif. In more grounded accounts, people claim the ghost fighters often appear anguished, as if reenacting their worst moments, or searching the battlefield for something: comrades, a lost banner, their own grave. This interpretation imbues the stories with deep pathos. These are spirits stuck in time, crying out for peace that never comes. It also offers a solution. Sometimes locals have tried to ceremonially free the spirits by giving them proper burials, like at Edgehill, or prayers. In a few tales, that indeed calmed the hauntings. If one believes the spiritual explanation, then what we witness in these phantom battles is nothing less than the desperate longing of the dead, made manifest in sights and sounds. Finally, there are wonderfully bizarre reports of physical evidence left behind by these phantom conflicts, hinting that something tangible might occur. One 17th-century record from 1686 claims that after a ghostly battle in the skies, a rain of objects fell to the ground: old hats, weapons, and swords, as if plunder from an invisible war. England and Scotland both have folklore about such weapon showers, mysteriously dropping from empty air. It sounds unbelievable. Were these items somehow teleported from a historical battlefield? Or did a clever hoaxer sprinkle relics to scare people? We'll never know, but the stories persist. Likewise, those hoofprints in Campania that St. Augustine mentioned, if true, who made them? Ghosts rarely leave footprints, unless perhaps those weren't ghosts at all, but some slip in reality where an upcoming battle briefly became real a few days early. The lines between paranormal and science fiction blur here, but these accounts tantalize us with the notion that the boundary between past and present might not be as firm as we assume. Conclusion: when history lives on, In the end, whether one leans toward skepticism or belief, there is no denying the enduring power of these stories. Sky battles of the forgotten captivate us because they sit at the crossroads of history, memory, and mystery. They force us to consider that perhaps the past is not truly past, that the echoes of bygone lives and events continue to ripple into our world in ways we cannot fully explain. Each tale, from Edgehill's ghost army to Nuremberg's celestial battle, leaves us with a sense of awe and a slight chill. Stand on a battlefield at dusk, or gaze at a blood-red sunset, and you might just find yourself wondering, is something unseen happening here? Are the eyes of long-dead soldiers upon me? These legends persist not only because they make for thrilling tales, but because they speak to something profound in the human condition. We honor and remember battles to make sense of sacrifice and suffering. Perhaps on some level, these ghostly reenactments are a form of remembrance, history itself refusing to be forgotten. They remind us of the cost of war in a way no textbook or memorial can. After all, what could be more sobering than seeing with your own eyes a battalion of phantoms doomed to reach one terrible day, or hearing the distant cries of men who should long be at peace? It's as if the universe is telling us, look, listen, do not forget what happened here. The past cries out, demanding that the living remember its lessons. Of course, not every mysterious light in the sky or ghostly sound in the night will turn out to be an army of the dead. Many can be explained away, no doubt, but as our journey through these accounts has shown, some phenomena defy easy dismissal. Some mysteries linger, unsolved and perhaps unsolvable, teasing us with the possibility that reality has hidden depths. It is in those moments, when a village watches silent, swirling lights above and thinks they see warriors, when a lone traveler stumbles upon an ancient battle in the mist, or when gunfire echoes on an empty field, that we feel the past and present merge. In those moments, the veil between worlds is thin. So the next time you hear thunder on a clear night or catch a flash of light atop a quiet hill, consider this. Maybe, just maybe, it isn't a storm or your imagination. It could be that somewhere beyond time, an old battle is raging once more, its memory refusing to fade. The sky might be bleeding history, if only for an instant, giving us a glimpse of those who came before. And as our hearts skip and we feel the hairs rise on our neck, we are left to ponder the haunting question. When the past bleeds into the sky, is it truly gone? Or does some part of it live on, forever fighting, forever remembered, in the whispers of the wind and the glow of the heavens? The answer, like the ghostly armies themselves, remains just out of reach, lost in the mists of time and imagination, a riddle for future generations to wonder about, as we do now. The night is still. The stars above shine indifferent, but somewhere, faintly on the breeze, there is the distant echo of a battle. And we, the living, turn our eyes to the sky and remember. Could it be that history never truly rests? That the souls of the past still seek recognition, or simply aren't ready to let go? Let us know what you think. Natural phenomenon, psychological illusion, or something beyond science? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below, because even greater mysteries await you here on World Mysteries.